Hello everyone, welcome to DelphiCon 2021. Now we are talking about things that you don't know about JSON in Delphi. In your agenda we will see ways to deal with JSON in Delphi, the most productive way to do the JSON parser, options that automate the default behavior of JSON serialization. Well, about speakers, we have here with us
Gustavo Mena Barreto. Hello everyone, I'm a senior developer at Aquasoft.
And John Mai, Embarcadero, Delphi and C++ Builder MVP, Development Manager at Aquasoft. So why to talk about JSON in Delphi? Well, as we know that JSON is a very important part of a developer nowadays. We have many API integrations. We have even JSON storage in NoSQL databases. So JSON is a daily basis things that developers use nowadays. And many developers that we know that don't know all the ways to deal with JSON in Delphi. We have more than one way to deal with JSON. And this talk is to show you other and different ways to deal with JSON. And what options we have to deal with JSON in Delphi? Well, we have the most simple way that we will show you later on this talk. We have JSON to Delphi, a feature to generate our Delphi classes based on a JSON object. We have super object, open source feature that allows us to use JSON in older versions of Delphi. And we have the component REST response dataset adapter that automated generated datasets based on a JSON. And the last options we have JSON Marshal, a class that allows us to change the serialization routine. Okay, we can customize the way that JSON serialization have done with JSON Marshal. For this talk, we select this JSON as a sample, and for all the ways to deal with JSON that we have, we will use this same JSON, so you can see the different way with the same JSON base. Okay, this JSON is based on a Bitcoin blockchain. Is a very large structure. We just select a little slice of that JSON to put here to show you that is a JSON nearly close that most APIs use as a JSON structure. And before we start, we always have to use these two units in our JSON, in our Delphi applications, okay? System JSON and rest.json. For all the samples that we use here, you must use these two uses here.
So first of all, we're going to talk about the most simple way to deal with JSON. So here we have two variables. One of them is TJSONOptions, and the other one is TJSONArray. And we're going to do the parse of the information of this JSON, of the JSON that John show earlier to us. So in a single line, we can do the parser of the information of this JSON. So we can access all the fields that for that JSON using these two methods, get and get value. And to access the list, we can use the variable TJSONArray using get inputs. That is the name of the list. We're gonna use as our array, and we're gonna do a loop to access the fields of that list of inputs. So right here we can see the result of all the information of the array, the list inputs. but we can write any information. We can create a JSON with a customized information. We're gonna use the same variables here. We're gonna create them, and we're gonna use this method add pair. On the first parameter, we're gonna set the name of the field, and the second parameter we're gonna set the value of the field. Same here with the array, the list. As you can see, we are using a variable JSON array here to indicate that it's a list, that the field is a list. We can create the fields of that list here using the same method add pair. We're gonna add on the array, and as you can see here, the result of the JSON is right here with the information that we set here on the code.
So we also have the JSON to Delphi options. Okay, this JSON to Delphi is a external link that we have here. We have access here, and with this website we can generate our class to do the parser. We have just to put here on this box a JSON sample, and with this JSON sample we click in generate, and this website will generate for us all the class and the fields that we have in that sample JSON. So going back to our presentation, with just one click in that site, we can generate all the structure that we need to access all data from a JSON object. With this single line to serialize that object, we can access all the fields like we have write some class in Delphi, and all the fields are with exactly the same types and exactly the same sub architecture that our JSON early have. It's very similar to use a SOAP XML parser. It's very similar, but in this case natively for JSON. Okay, we don't need to use JSON to Delphi, the website. We can write this class in our own hands, but it will take a lot of effort that we can save without writing on our own hands using that website. Okay, and with this structure we can also write our own JSONs. Okay, we just have to instantiate that object like you see here, and we can even use it with arrays, as you can see here as well. And with only one single line of code, we can serialize that object into a JSON, as you can see on this box here. So as I talked to you earlier, we can write this class in our own hands, but as we know, many APIs has very large, very dense and extensive JSONs. And maybe that write in your own hands will take you a lot of time. So with that free website, we can use it. That website has even the source code. You can download the source code of that tool to use on your own projects. Degeneration, okay, you can change the way that the write of that class has been done, but only using that site we simplify a lot of handwork that we have to do. We don't use that site to generate our classes. Okay, and for the next topic, notice that here on the serialization we use a customized option. We use ignore empty strings. Well, that option in this serialization routine of Delphi, this is a native serialization routine, okay, people? We are not using any external objects yet, okay? And with this single option here, all empty strings in our classes will not be generated as a JSON field. So our final JSON will not have empty strings fields. Is a default behavior, okay, is a standard default behavior of JSON when empty strings are removed from JSON to save data exchange between APIs. And with this option, we can change the behavior of the serialization. And we don't have this option, okay? This JSON option is new in Delphi. Newer versions of Delphi have more options than earliest version. So Alexandria, as you can see here, have all these options. But if you are using Delphi XE or Seattle, there are less options to use in this JSON option, okay? But as you can see here, we can change a lot of behavior of our serialization routine and automate some part of the job, like using date format for Unix, using date in UTC, caring about ident in case camel. So these options, if we don't have these JSON options in our serialization routine, we must be done this job by hand, writing code after the Delphi serializate the object, okay? And with these JSON options, we just put that here on our method, and all options will be applied in our final JSON results. Well, we have also superobject. Superobject is an external, free, open source code to deal with JSON in earliest version of Delphi. And we put here in this talk because we know that many of you are using newest version of Delphi, but we also know there are many systems out there that still using Delphi 7, Delphi 6. And even if it is an old project, maybe you have to use some kind of JSON to do some integration with some API. And for that kind of project, you can use superobject as an option. You can also use some DOI or package to integrate with that version of Delphi. But if you want to write natively, you can use superobject as an option. Superobject is free, as I told you before. And here we have some example. You have to use this method, SO, and after that, with the JSON that I showed you before in this string list here, with this method, this variable will have the instance of this object. And we can access each field of that instance with this method here, like we are accessing some array or some string lists, okay? And we can access all the values of the JSON, and also we can do a loop through inputs, listing all the values that we have in that array loop. So this source here can be used, of course, Delphi 7 don't have for in loops, but we can use similar approach to read information from a JSON in Delphi 7 or earlier version of Delphi. For newest versions of Delphi, we don't recommend to use superobject, okay? We have some other native ways to deal with JSON, as we showed you before, that overrate the way that superobject do. And with superobject, we can also write JSON in Delphi 7 or earlier version of Delphi, just using this method here to instantiate that object, and after that using the access through array to create an object. Okay, and with this line of code as a string, as you can see here, we generate a completely new JSON Okay, so or Delphi 7 or earlier version of Delphi can generate the JSON only using the super object as a way to do it.
Now we're going to talk about the component REST response dataset adapter. It's a relative new component of Delphi, and we can use this component by this tool that Delphi has. This tool is called REST Debugger, and this tool is similar to a tool like Postman, any tool like APE that work with APE. So in the image here, we see that we're gonna set the APE of the address of our APE. We're gonna set tabular data here, and we're gonna click on send request. As you can see here, the information of that APE is right here. And next we can click on copy components. The follow components have been copied to the clipboard. These are the components that will allow to work with JSON using a data set. As I can show you here on the Delphi, we're gonna open REST Debugger here on Tools. So, as I show you on the image, this is REST Debugger now, and we're gonna set here the API address. We're gonna click on tabular data, and we're gonna click on send request. Here we can see the information of this APE, and we're gonna copy components. The following components have been copied to the clipboard. I'm gonna paste here on form. All these components are linked, so the only thing that we're gonna need to do is to use this data source on the dataset property to set FD main table. Why FD main table? Because the REST response dataset adapter is linked to FD main table. So all the information that comes from the APE or JSON, we're gonna see on the FD main table. And we're gonna need only 2 lines of code. One to execute, REST request execute, and the other to activate the REST response dataset adapter. So I'm gonna run the project here. I'm gonna click on the button REST response dataset adapter. And here are the information of JSON. REST request execute that APE and show us to us in our FD main table that are linking our data source on a DB grid. So in that way, it's very simple to work with JSON, because we now are working with a data set. We can use FD main table or a client data set, any component data set you want to work with JSON. here I show you the 2 lines of code that I showed you earlier in Delphi.
So the next option that we have is JSON Marshal class. What is JSON Marshal class? It's a class that we can change the default behavior of the serialization algorithm without have to write any RTTI method, okay? So usually all JSON serialization is through RTTI, but we have to think about it when we choose to use other kinds of serialization with RTTI, because RTTI is not thread safe in some implementations. So you must choose carefully if you are using some changes on your algorithm of serialization in a backend server. As an example, you must have carefully to use RTTI, because you can have some thread bugs or thread errors in using that way. So here we have some samples of this use. We can see here a sample for Embarcadero. Okay, it's very complete. And we have also a simple sample here when we show you how to use JSON Marshal. We use the class that we used before for JSON to Delphi serialization, okay. And with that class, we just instantiate an object, populate some properties, and instantiate our JSON Marshal, and instantiate a JSON converter. Here, the JSON converter, I will talk later about this guy, okay? But with this instance of JSON Marshal, we just call the method Marshal over our object, and after that I get here on this memo all the JSON generated by this class, okay. One example, what things I can do, I can with JSON Marshal put some attributes on my class, and like you can see here on this sample, this field F script will not be generated as a JSON field, okay. My class can have this field, but the final JSON will not have this field because of this attribute that JSON Marshal reads. So with JSON Marshal class, we can set our own version of the register converter register converter procedure. With that, we can overload the default behavior of JSON Marshal parser. As I told you before, this guy here, JSON converter, can be overloaded, and we can change the way that JSON Marshal see or field kinds, for example. Okay, so if we have some field kind of type data, we can serialize JSON using some kind of string. Okay, I can do this type of changes in my serialization routine with JSON Marshal without have to worry about RTTI, because JSON Marshal has its own methods to provide serialization of the class that we use as a parameter. Okay, so it's a very complex option to use JSON Marshal, but it deals very well with some specialized JSON structures, as well as some kind of some special needs for serialization routines. Well, we thank you all for your attention, and here we have all the source code and options that we talk in this presentation. Okay, all the source code will be given to you, so you can have access to this sample as well as the other options that we notice here. And we may be here to answer some Q&A that you have. And here we have all the Gustavo contacts, as well as the QR code to these samples that we use in this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you all for your attention, and we are here for you if you maybe have some question about uh, how to deal with JSON in Delphi. We have here a question about JSON objects, about the free of the objects. And what you can tell about freeing the object is that JSON object usually becomes the owner of the structure that you put in JSON object, okay? Every object that you put as add pair or add array maybe not, will be linked to that JSON object, that root the JSON object that you are using. So when you free the root JSON object, all objects that you added in as JSONs will be freed as well. Okay, so um, be careful when you are using JSON objects to not free all your sub objects, or you maybe have some access violation. Okay. All the URL links and as well as the session slides will be on Embarcadero site. Okay, you can download that from that. Okay. Uh, Martin asking here, there is a compression for large JSONs. Well, Martin, usually on serialization routines, we do not have any compression. Okay, usually for compression we use the exchange information protocols. Okay, like each HTTP already has some kind of compression, and you use that in the transport layer, not in the session layer of the Aussie model. I don't know if that was clear, but usually during the serialization we don't compress JSON. Okay. Worth waiting for them. Oh, Dim has been tired. There are a lot of sessions.
I think there's a question, a long question, but let me see if I can help you. JSON appears to be case sensitive and Delphi is not case sensitive. Maybe I'm wrong. So how do you parse a JSON string that has attributes of same name in a different case? Then there's example here. In JSON to Delphi, he he there's a he can handle this because there's an option of that you can use in the fields that the class that JSON to Delphi can create. I believe the attribute is JSON name, and the JSON name attribute it's that is the name that is gonna be serialized when you use, even if you have two fields of the same name, for example. I don't know if I was clear, but I believe that was the question.
Question here about REST response adapter. We are using Delphi 10.4, okay, but we recommend to use always the newest version of Delphi because this part of JSON serialization are always being updated in Delphi. So the newest version of Delphi always has the better approach, the better options, okay, the most complete routines. Mauro asked about nested fields. Well, Mauro, with JSON to Delphi, the class generation, the parser, the native parser, usually is the better approach to deal with nested fields, okay? Only if you have some kind of uh, specific JSON types in your JSON structure, then if those fields are really specific, then maybe you should use JSON Marshall and write your own uh, serialization routine, okay? But usually with JSON to Delphi generating the class, you can easily deal with nested fields, okay, in JSON.
And yes, we really like JSON to Delphi. If you don't notice, but we speak a lot. Then there are a lot of questions, and JSON to Delphi is a really helpful tool.
Okay, we didn't find any new questions here. Gustavo, you have something to tell?
No, I just thank you for the opportunity. This is my first Delphi call, and it was very exciting, and I'm really happy with the questions and all the nice comments that the people that talk here.
Right. There are some new questions here. Daniel asked, which version of JSON Marshall? Well, we are using Delphi 10.4, okay, but you can use always, we recommend to use the newest version of Delphi, okay? Uh, Then a question about super object, if it is only for JSON. Well, we didn't use super object for other kind of structures. Maybe it will be compatible, okay, Anthony. But what I tell you, with XML, for example, you can use all the soul parser from Delphi that works very well. And maybe for other structures, you don't need to use external component, right? And for the newest version of Delphi, usually don't have to use superobject because natively you have very good routines to deal with JSON, okay? Okay, and I will tell you thank you all for your attention. And there are even other ways to deal with JSON in Delphi, okay? But usually there are specific for some specific options. We just put here the most common uses that we have in our own projects, okay? And please feel free to contact us if you have some question that we can answer here, okay? Really, really thank you for your attention. And for now, I think it's done.
All right, everyone. I guess that's it for now. Thank you, everyone, for your support. It's been a fun week here joining us at DelphiCon 2021. Should you guys still have any other questions, feel free to check out the replays and you can send us your feedback as well. Okay. Thanks, Dion. Thanks, Gustavo, for joining us. Hope you guys have a good week ahead.
Thank you all for your attention and opportunity.
Thank you all, guys. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.